I would like to invite our Dean, Dr. Akola Lewis Cameron, to bring greetings from the Faculty of Social Sciences.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Okay. First of all, let me warmly welcome to the University of the West Indies our featured speaker for the conference, Professor Avinash Persaud, other members of the head table, Professor Compton-Bourne, Martin Franklin, a dear friend, former head of the Department of Economics, other colleagues from the University of the West Indies, students, UE students, secondary school students, members of the media. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good morning. Let me join the head of the department in adding my own sort of comments on the context for the conference. And we can agree that the world we exist in today has changed and will continue to change at a rapid rate. We live in a highly digitized, connected world that has disrupted the way in which we access, it has disrupted the way in which we process and share information. And as my colleague just said, we live in an increasingly economically challenged world that has disrupted even our financial comfort zones. So it is generally accepted then that it is not business as usual. Times are different now and will continue to surprise us with fundamental disruptions as the future unfolds. Earlier this year, an IMF chief economist indicated that the world was now in a significantly weakened global expansion, with some 70% of the global economy experiencing a slowdown for 2019, possibly making it the most extensive synchronized slowdown since 2011. And more than ever, a concerted effort has to be made by policymakers to adopt new approaches, supported by new thinking and rooted in an innovative, technology-centered, revolutionary mindset. The OECD Secretary General, Angel Gurria, said it well at a recent conference where he said, "We need to completely overhaul our economic thinking and the policy advice that flows from it. Safeguarding our common future requires a coherent, systemic approach based on putting people at the center. We need an economy that puts the well-being of people and the planet at the center." And of course, you would have seen that echoed in the recent marches all across Europe, where we were looking at, the environmental challenges that we face. An annual trade and development report produced by the UN indicates that the global economy remains fragile, even though the financial crisis ended a decade ago, and called for a fundamental rethink of a business as usual model that had saddled the developing world with record levels of debt. As the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, I want to take this opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to a people-centered approach and to producing persons who can think and act differently and foster innovation for the positive transformation of the Caribbean economy and the wider world. Our focus going forward in the faculty is to be socially engaged and solutions-oriented. And this is aligned to the clarion call for a new approach for economic reform for both Trinidad and Tobago, as well as the wider region. So it is with this in mind that this particular conference on the economy is designed to bring external and internal stakeholders together for that rigorous academic and practical discussions that would foster new thoughts and produce cutting-edge solutions. There are peculiarities that relate to sustainable economic development in Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean that cannot be simply addressed via a cut and paste method of applying international best practices and models. Rather, it is expected that discussions will occur over the next 2 days, that the discussions will drill down on the peculiarities and discern which strategies and tools that we can use to address our specific economic state, locally as well as regionally. And this is why I really have to thank Professor Persaud for accepting our invitation, because we think that the discussions that will take place over the next 2 days are timely, and we really do look forward to your insight on steering the discussions as we start the discourse today. So as I close, I want to warmly welcome all our presenters from both locally and the region, and other participants to what I believe will be a very dynamic round of discussions that potentially re-engineer the course of direction for Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean. I have to say I was pleasantly delighted to see that discussions this year will include the non-traditional economic discussions, such as COTE and the arts and gender issues, topics which have global significance and which weigh heavily on sustainable economic development as countries endeavor to implement diversification strategies. So again, let me warmly welcome particularly our secondary school students. It is our extreme pleasure to have you here, and we trust that the discussions over the next 2 days, as my colleague said, will spark something in you that will, one, encourage you to consider the UWI as your next choice as you continue in your career, but also allow you to start thinking about how can I contribute to being part of the solution. I thank you.